Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Here we have it, Wednesday morning, quite an interesting day on the markets. Bitcoin is up in a big way, continuing to rally, nearing $93,000 US now. However, the miners, or at least for the most part, have pulled back in the red, presenting some great buying opportunities if you've got some of that dry powder on the side that we've been talking about. Now, we've got our interview with Bitfarms and Ben coming up this afternoon, but before that, we wanted to talk about earnings, news, and of course, ETF inflows in the Bitcoin mining sector. Before we get into all that though, please take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let us know in the comment section below if you're purchasing any miners today, how you're feeling about this sector overall, and your outlook in terms of Bitcoin price target for the final few months of 2024. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so that's right. Wednesday morning, as I said in the intro, Anthony, quite an interesting day for trading. We have Bitcoin flirting with $93,000 US. You say it actually surpassed that while we were doing our intro discussion there. However, the Bitcoin miners pretty much red across the board. There are a few standouts, which we'll talk about in a second here, and continuing to retreat more as trading goes on. So really a mismatch. We've seen this in the past, Anthony, this divergence. We see Bitcoin either going up or down, and then the miners going the opposite direction. What do you make of this trading activity?
Maybe I'm hoping it's nothing to do with our video yesterday about selling strategy. That could be one of the reasons. All our followers have decided to sell their portfolios at the top. You know, the mining stocks were doing so much better at pre-market when the Bitcoin price was significantly lower than where it is now. I mean, we were hovering around 86,000 this morning, and I was thinking to myself, is it going to climb up there? We're going to be in this band, and all of a sudden it just started motoring, and it literally flew all the way up to 93, up 7% on the day. It's pulled back a little bit now, but the mining stocks are, are in a majority, with the exception of two, are in the red. And but yeah, it's a funny day, and some of these days are there, the decoupling of Bitcoin mining and stocks and the Bitcoin price. But what we always find is that the inevitability is that, as Bitcoin price rises, the mining stocks will play catch up and will get there, and they get there quicker as well in terms of volatility.
Yeah, you're most definitely right. I'm glad you brought up the volatility. We've talked about that extensively. The miners tend to outpace the price of Bitcoin, but we have seen this kind of lag effect. And a lot of times you will see Bitcoin move up. A day or two after that is when we get those massive double-digit rallies in the miners. So we're going to come on to the mid-morning market update in a second. But before we do, we did want to touch on the ETF inflows. So another very strong day there, Anthony. November 12th, $817 million. This now puts us up to $4.2 billion in the last 5 days or weeks worth of trading. Any comments here? Do you think this is slowing down? At what point does the money dry up and people stop or slow down entering these ETFs?
As we said on many podcasts, it just seems to be relentless. It just seems that more and more adoption's happening as we speak. Every day we're seeing a new news story, another pension fund's picking up Bitcoin. We know the big, I was sat today chatting with an investor or not an investor, with someone at the gymnasium talking about Bitcoin, and he'd heard about it, and he'd heard about BlackRock buying Bitcoin. I had to actually explain to him that 4 or 5 years ago, BlackRock had the opposite attitude, as did many people. And he was amazed because he said they're surely buying a lot of it now. I said, well, they're probably one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin now from an institutional perspective. They've got probably over 450,000 Bitcoin. and it's took them 10 or 11 months to get to that position. But 4 years ago, Larry Fink was was saying, but it's a scam, and probably 99% of people out there were exactly the same. And what we're starting to see now, again, this cycle now, we're starting to see this pickup in terms of the number of people who are searching Bitcoin via Google. The metrics are looking positive that way. These ETFs, I mean, it's just relentless. I mean, we've had 50 red days this year, but we've had over 200 um, green days, and this week's been absolutely, in terms of what Bitcoin miners could actually produce in a day, which is only 450 Bitcoin. They've been, multiplying that by 20 in terms of purchasing daily output, 20, 30. I think even one day it was over 40 times the daily output. It can't carry on. And actually, you could probably put a little bit of that down to, we talk about the Trump effect, but you could also talk about the ETF effect. When they're buying this amount of Bitcoin, it's got to affect the price of Bitcoin because, as I say, I've not sold any of mine, you've not sold any of yours. And there's a lot of people out there that aren't selling it. Yes, there's a small, I think it's 25-30% of Bitcoin has been moving, and so there are people out there that will, take profit. Um, or some people have got into Bitcoin when it was quite high, and they had the first dip, and all of a sudden they think, oh, I need to get out of this because it's so volatile. So there are people moving, but I've held Bitcoin now for over 4 years, and haven't sold any. Added to it, but not sold any.
I've taken the same approach. I was recently buying this week, and it's interesting you bring up the ETF effect. Yes, the inflows have been substantial. However, we talked to some of the Wall Street guys in Amsterdam, and they said compared to the overall trading volume or liquidity in the Bitcoin market, when you look at the options, the derivatives, really the ETF buying does represent a small fraction of the overall trade volume of Bitcoin, but it does start to add up, especially when you add in now nation states and obviously MicroStrategy, other companies piling into the space. Now, I wanted to take a second here, Anthony. You mentioned the Trump effect. So we had the election last week. Really, since that event, we've seen continual pressure. People want into the Bitcoin space. They're pushing their money in. It's pushing the price up. The miners had a very strong performance, obviously not today. That's on the backs of Trump and RFK Jr.'s very favorable rhetoric towards Bitcoin. Now, another person who is down in Nashville for the Bitcoin conference actually came out after Trump with the bill in her hand was Senator Loomis. She's a very pro Bitcoin senator. She feels with the sweep that Trump got in terms of the popular vote, the presidency, the House, and the Senate, that they should be able to push through this Bitcoin strategic reserve asset bill within 100 days of tabling the bill. So this could be absolutely monstrous. And I think people are starting to realize the US has laid out a plan, a million Bitcoin out of 21 million total. So roughly 5% if you take out the million that Satoshi has in his wallet. That equates to their gold holdings in terms of the percentage of gold held by the US in the world, about 5% of total gold reserves. They've committed to 200,000 coins per year over 5 years to get there. So people are seeing this, Anthony. They're saying, hey, the US looks like they may be setting up for a strategic reserve. Maybe I should get out ahead of them, whether you're a company, an individual, or another nation state. So, what do you make of this game theory playing out as we've predicted on the channel for months here?
Yeah, it's just one good positive piece of the jigsaw puzzle after another. We're just building that picture now, of Bitcoin, of adoption. All the lines and the dots are all joining up now. And very fortunate to have been invited down to Nashville for the conference where we both had speaking engagements there, and we're able to sit and listen to some of these really big names, some of these senators, Congress people, that the former president, who's going to be the next president, was able to talk about Bitcoin. And you've got 8,000 people at that conference, all with the same view as to where we are, and we just know that that number of adoption is increasing. It's just a real positive space to be in at the moment.
It certainly is, yeah. And we've seen some charts on Twitter or X talking about with MicroStrategy's commitment, that recurring buying, with the US government commitment, with El Salvador, with the miners hodling. There really are just a lot of macro tailwinds for the sector right now. And it doesn't seem like anything standing in Bitcoin's place. We've talked about this really being a psychological experiment or a social experiment in some form, Anthony, as this is the first time there's been a finite asset. So it will be interesting to see how high this can go. I know a lot of analysts are starting to revise their Bitcoin price targets upwards. So the interesting point here is although you say these dots are being connected, overall sentiment towards Bitcoin is extremely positive, almost euphoric. The Bitcoin mining stocks themselves, at least today, are pulling back in a big way. This is really leading to a question for a lot of investors as to why. My feeling here, Anthony, is this is positioning from the big institutional investors realizing that Bitcoin miners are essentially the backbone or the foundation of this entire industry. They realize they can buy these miners and create Bitcoin for a fixed price rather than following Bitcoin up in terms of spot pricing. So I personally feel like this may be a little bit of manipulation and some larger players starting to position. What do you make of this divergence between the miners and Bitcoin?
Yeah, you might have a good point there. It might be, a bit of profit taking. Some of these mining stocks have been really rallying. We talked the other day about Riot was over 100% up in the sort of like the 4 weeks post the 1st of October. If we look at the charts today, there are three miners in positive territory. We've got the likes of Hut 8 that had a good pre-opening. It was up, I think, 7 or 8% pre-opening. Then it jumped to 16% as the Bitcoin price was rallying. It's at 10% at the moment there. And that's so it's already reached a year to date high already today. Bitdeer up 4.5%. Now Bitdeer was up 16% at market opening, and I was scampering for news, thinking has a SIL miner 3 been released? 6 months earlier than expected, and it's everything's positive there, but. I mean, we've talked many times about Bitdeer and the fact that it's got so many facets to the organization. It's a Bitcoin miner, it hosts, it has cloud hash rate, it's got HPC, and guess what? It builds its own mining machines now. So, it's covering all the bases. All we need to find out now, it's actually a secret energy provider, and it's got the whole package. So that share price is doing well in recent times. And the other price share that's up today is in the green is Gryphon Mining. Gryphon Mining was up 9% at market opening, pulled back a little bit now, but still in the green. And if you go back to, looking over the last month, Gryphon Mining's up 50%. But the best performing stock over the last month is Hut 8, up 116% in the last month, followed by the likes of Wulf at 76, CIFR at 67. And then you've got a whole group of mining companies around about 50%. So you've got Riot, CleanSpark, Digital, and Hive all around the 50% up in the last month there. Now, some of these stocks were a lot more higher than that. So this pullback today, and again, we're looking for a real reason for the pullback, but we've seen this happen many times over the last few years, and this what we call like a decoupling from the Bitcoin price. Normally, when Bitcoin price is rallying, it has done over the last week. We've seen the mining stocks rally, even more than the Bitcoin price. But today we've just seen a little bit of pullback there. So there could be a number of reasons, a bit of profit taking, maybe some news out there that we've not seen yet. But there's no one stock there's nothing to say Hut's doing anything other than release its results today. So, we'll be able to dig a lot more deeper into Hut's results when we have the likes of Sue and Asher on the call this week, and we'll get more of an understanding of whether that's been the driver, because they've had a really good rejuvenation that share price since Asher took over as CEO, and we'll get to the bottom of that in the actual call itself.
Yeah, we certainly will. Quick reminder on interviews, and then I've got a comment for you, Anthony. Today, Ben from Bitfarms, obviously the CEO, a lot of questions for Ben about Paraguay exahash targets, revised exahash targets, stronghold mining. So that's going to be a great one coming out later tonight. Then tomorrow, as you say, we've got Hut 8, both Asher and Sue Ennis joining us. And then on Friday, we've got TeraWulf and Gryphon with the new CEO, Steve Gutterman, joining us for the first time on the program. Now, you talk about the miners pulling back here. In my mind, Anthony, this is the perfect day to be buying or be topping up your positions. We see the underlying asset, Bitcoin, moving in a big way. A lot of times we get so attached to share price, but you guys need to remember these miners really operate their business based on hash price and the price of Bitcoin. So, regardless in the short term of what the share price does, just like buying an oil stock when oil's at an all time high, probably not too bad of a bet. On days like this, where you're able to get the foresight of Bitcoin price going up, meaning revenues are going up, but share price going down, great opportunity, and I was obviously taking advantage of that. We talk about having some dry powder on the sidelines. This is exactly what we're meaning. So we did an episode yesterday on sell strategy, talking about when we're actually going to be pulling money out of the market, but a great idea to be maybe moving between companies or taking some short-term profits on the way up to redeploy back into the market. Anthony, what do you make of this dry powder situation, the importance of keeping some cash on the sideline? Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now.
Yeah, it's something I've been doing over the last few years, is not trying to put everything into one industry. I mean, I'm very much focused on the mining stocks. I've spent the last 4 years drilling into these companies, doing the updates regular on social media. And this last year, we've been very fortunate with Power Mining Analysis to create this media platform and do more work in the space for people, and obviously part of that, people on the Patreon know that I have a significant amount of cash within my portfolio, and I regularly say, it's great to have money there because certain times you'll see stocks pull back, and there'll be no real reason other than maybe there's been a bit of a sell-off. There's still underlying value in that stock, and it gives you the opportunity then there. But I've kept some, for transparency, something like 15 to 20% of my portfolio is in cash at the moment. So that sort of gives you an indication. We've talked yesterday about 2021. Lessons were learned in 2021. People thought this was going to the moon that year, and people were investing a lot of money into the space. And, like I said yesterday, people are still recovering that position. But 2023, 2024 has been certainly a lot more brighter with these stocks. You look at the performance since the beginning of last year when we got to the bottom of the bear cycle. And if you got into Bitcoin mining in this last 18, 20 months, you should be sitting on some really good profits. And so taking some profits, having some cash, doesn't hurt to take a profit. You don't have to get the highest price for every stock. Believe you me, all these experts out there aren't doing it either. And the great thing is the competition. Look at the competition. Look at how many of the analysts are in the top 100. Never mind in the top 10. We don't have any analysts in the top 10, so who's to say all the analysts are right? So have a plan, have some cash on the sideline for that plan, and if you see your mining stocks make significant profits, then take some of the profit out of there. It doesn't hurt. You've still got some there to ride further if the price goes up. And I was selling one company stock I think it was in June, and I think on 4 or 5 consecutive days, I was selling about 10% of the stock, and the price was kept going up. Now, if I'd have sold it all on the fifth day, I'd have had a lot more profit. But you know what? I was happy. I'd set a plan in place, and the plan worked, and I still got a nice amount of profit. It just happened that I got it within 5 days. I had these targets, and we talked about this yesterday in the podcast. And so, have a plan. Doesn't have to be my plan or Bryce's plan, but come up with a plan and stick to the plan. And like you said there, having some cash available for days like this, or for when there's really big pullbacks. I mean, this isn't really a big pullback today, but we've seen mining stocks, double digits down, and you can't understand why. And there's four or five of them are in double digits down. So some big names in there: CleanSpark, CIFR, IREN, Marathon. They're not the small underperforming mining stocks in terms of size. They're some of the biggest mining stocks. So if that's a 10% pullback, will it get back to its? And we're talking some of these stocks aren't even at 52-week high at the moment. So there's still a way to go to get their year high position. So having some cash in the sideline helps you get there.
Yeah, it certainly does. Keeping a bit of cash, having a plan, and as they say, Anthony, you can't go broke taking a profit. So you may not maximize your trades, but you'll do well over a career of investing. Now, we understand a lot of earnings have come out in the last day or two here. Bitfarms, Marathon, Hive, TeraWulf. We've got most of these CEOs on the program. So we were talking to ourselves, Anthony. We said, hey, should we read through the updates today? Or should we just invite the CEOs on and let them give us the information firsthand? So I think we're going to go for the latter of the two. I will give you the opportunity if you have anything that stood out or specific comments, high level about the earnings you want to chime in here before we wrap it up.
No, I mean the earnings have come out, and as I predicted, and let's be honest, it wasn't rocket science. It's like saying I can predict the revenue from all these companies, like I've seen some people do on social media. Well, the miners tell you how many Bitcoin they're mining every month. Multiply that by the Bitcoin price, and there's a revenue. It ain't rocket science. But if you look at the underlying profit versus loss, all these miners that are releasing their results have made a net loss. That's end of that question there. Then the second part you look at is whether they're actually operating in terms of cash. And some of the non-pay costs, we want to make sure these miners are cash flow positive. So, disregarding depreciation, stock compensation, unrealized gains and losses, these are actual real costs. But, for mining companies, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that, it's everything that goes in cash and that goes out cash to operate a business. As long as you've got more cash coming in than going out, then it's a viable business plan. Um, and so, we're going to find out once all these earnings are out, who actually became out cash flow positive. And an easy sort of like opening gambit is to look at the adjusted EBITDA, which takes away some of these one-off costs and the non-cash costs. So if you've got a positive EBITDA, I'd go as far to say as I'd be fairly comfortable saying that the cash flow positive, but also adjusted EBITDA, as I highlighted, includes one-offs. So there could be one-off cash purchases in there. And an example of that would be if you look at Riot and Bitfarms, they've expended a lot of money this year on terms of legal costs to going through this potential acquisition. Now, that's on a standstill now to 2026, but both companies have probably outlaid quite a significant amount. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. I think Jason said it was about 4 million from Riot's perspective. I'm sure Bitfarms defending it from their point of view. And also, you think about Bitfarms going through the process of purchasing Stronghold Mining. We'll get Ben to give us an idea today, because I think their one-off costs were some in the region of about $9 million for the quarter. And they'll use that as a one-off cost to give their adjusted EBITDA a fuller figure. But actually, that 9 million is cash. They have spent that money, but what they're articulating is it doesn't happen every quarter. It's a one-off. This won't happen again. So it's wrong to be included in normal business as usual. And that's probably what the mining companies are saying. Now, when you hear this word adjusted EBITDA, it's not an accounting terminology. It's what the mining companies have used, and other companies as well. The other companies in the industry use this because it's a way of highlighting without all the non-cost areas. But true accountants like myself and other people out there, you look at net profit, net loss. That's what you're reporting, and they all report net profit or net loss. And so far, of the sort of 5 or 6 results that I've seen come through, it's all net losses on a scale.
Yeah, no, it's great you bring up those points, Anthony. And I'm really personally enjoying learning about the financial side of these companies more through the earnings, the press releases, and obviously the discussions we have on the channel. Now, the last piece we wanted to bring up here, you guys, we've seen a lot of movement, obviously, in the Miner Madness leaderboard. We have a new leader atop the board, Good Energy 77, at least as of close yesterday. So these are yesterday closing snapshots, you guys. Huge moves, as you say, Anthony, double digit percentages, people making a lot of money, at least if their portfolios mirror what they selected in Miner Madness. So go on to the website, you guys. We have real time updates on both the analyst leaderboard and on the regular leaderboard on powermininganalysis.com. You can go in, take a look, let us know how you're performing if you're managing to beat out your favorite experts on Twitter or YouTube. So, with that being said, very interesting trading today. Miners continue to pull down into the red. Bitcoin continuing to move up into the green territory, now surpassing $93,000 US. Let us know your thoughts on this divergence in the comment section below. Are you buying any companies today? Are you worried about the miners? What do you make of today's trading? If you're not already subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to join. Smash the like button. We'll see you back here in a couple hours for our interview with Bitfarms.